Hey, I want you to look at this little thingy I made here.
You might be asking why I showed you this. I don't know. I guess I made this to illustrate one of my many issues I have with the modern car community. That one being takeovers. Obviously, this isn't my only issue with the car community as a whole though, and the other issues add up to something much bigger. The car community and the scene around it is dying, and it isn't very hard to see why. For your sake, I'll narrow it down into 3 parts.
Come to the Diddy party next time, man.
Alright, so what's a takeover and why is it such a problem? Essentially, a takeover is a flash mob that joins around an intersection which is preemptively chosen over social media. This flash mob then gathers to form a pit of sorts where cars are let in to do things like donuts or burnouts. There is no protective barriers or structures, there's no safety precautions, and obviously there's no accountability. This means that there are often cases where cars hit onlookers, hit curbs, hit other participating cars, or even hit cars which are trapped at the intersection but had nothing to do with the takeover besides just having been there. This also means the participants often end the night with a trip to the police station with a few bruises because they were hit by a car or ended up in a fist fight, with a destroyed car because they 1. Smacked into a curb, 2. Hit another car, 3. Hit an onlooker, 4. Caught fire, or 5. Hit an onlooker or another car but weren't fast enough to leave before the mob eventually destroyed the car by stomping on it while assaulting the driver, or ending the night at the hospital because a shootout started and a few rounds hit the crowd instead of the target they were meant to hit. Obviously, since the subsect of takeover groups and the broader car community have overlapping members, that makes the car community as a whole look terrible. But then, since when did takeovers even become a thing? Well, it would probably surprise you to know that takeovers have been a thing since around the 1980s. Originally, these takeovers served as hangouts for people in the Bay Area of California who really didn't have anywhere else to go. If you were under the age of 21, it was a lot easier for you to just go watch people do donuts instead of trying to sneak into a club. With things like police pressure and roadway speed control measures like speed bumps and barriers, the culture was forced into more parts of California and eventually emerged in places across the US, such as Detroit, Michigan, and Atlanta, Georgia. Obviously, since we live in modern times, it would be an error not to try and mention how social media has influenced this whole thing. After all, a lot of the weight behind why takeovers are so bad is because of how widely publicized this behavior has become. Places like TikTok have moderation that is just bad enough to let stuff like this fester on the site, while having such a big user base that content about or related to takeovers gets hundreds of thousands of views and impressions. Along with this, takeovers and the severity of the accidents which are an eventuality following a takeover have made it into legacy media such as local news channels, where the mature and elderly audiences of such media are forced to make a connection between the broader car community and scene and the dangerous actions of takeover participants. Alright, so my point is, this shit sucks. It's bad. It makes people look bad. You can't be doing it. The thing is that takeover groups have essentially evolved into a subsect of the car culture. The connection can also be made between takeovers and other dangerous behaviors, such as the trend of cutting up or swimming, which is where street racers race through roads and highways which are usually packed full of traffic. More often than not, this leads to the kind of accidents that people would have nightmares about. Although it might be difficult to find the connection between the two, it's not so far-fetched to think that the same sort of people that like to show their car off in an intersection would do the same kind of stuff in the highway. The thing is, the people that do this kind of shit are never awesome at driving. These people, the ones who like to show off but suck at driving, are probably the ones who should take the entire blame for why today's car community looks so bad.
Because I'm all out of money!
Alright, so we're on to part 2. Obviously, it's no surprise that being into cars is an expensive hobby. Most of the stuff that's considered cheap is either very common, broken, produced badly, worn, or a combination of all these things. There's also the issue of how things like demand have led to ridiculous prices for both new and used cars. First things first, let's talk about new cars. Around the time that this video is being made, prices are actually starting to stabilize a little bit and lower in relation to where they were within the last 3 years. During the pandemic, and because of the failure to meet demands for production numbers, car companies were essentially making cars that would immediately be sold at a premium because there wasn't enough inventory to keep prices in a normal range. Along with this, there's also the issue that modern enthusiast cars have evolved past the demands of current car enthusiasts. There's just no way to reason with the fact that there is a standard to uphold with modern cars, and car manufacturers aren't interested in creating many cars that'll only serve to please car enthusiasts. We want cars that are cheap, fun, modifiable, and reliable, and that's a difficult thing to make for manufacturers whose sole goal is to make a profit. Take a look at what modern enthusiast cars look like. In this context, modern is new. Let's take the new Nissan Z for example. The new Nissan Z starts at $42,970 according to the Nissan website, but at dealers they start more toward $46,000. There are examples of Z Nismos that sell for close to $70,000. This is a car that isn't a GTR, but is selling at the same price as when the R35 GTR first came out. Obviously this is considering that at this point the R35 is around 16 years old. Another example of this price issue is the new Supra. Toyota lists the 2024 Supra as starting at $46,440. Although the base model cars usually sit around this initial price, the price obviously jumps with the turbo 6-cylinder models. A fully optioned out anniversary edition car is valued at around $71,000 on Carfax. All 6-cylinder models still hover around the $55,000 to $60,000 price point if they are from the last year or two. Now I get that these two examples aren't exactly the same, since the Nissan's problem is more of a dealer markup thing, and the Supra was always going to be this expensive, but the issue here is that both of these cars are ridiculously expensive considering what these brands have always been praised for. Going back to Toyota for a second though, the GR Corolla starts at $37,000, but you can find examples deep into the $40,000s, even $50s if you look hard enough. Toyota GR86s and Subaru BRZs are going for around $35,000, although if you look hard enough you do find some that are cheaper. With cars like the new Subaru WRX, you can find examples that are going for around $40,000 that are currently for sale. The new Civic Type R regularly goes for around $40,000, and the new Integra Type S sells for around $50,000. There are even examples of ND Miatas that are nearing $40,000 for sale. Even the new Mustang GT and Camaro SS both start mostly just under $50,000, and they work their way up through the trims. Also, the 2023 Dodge Charger RT sucks, and the Scat Pack starts at around the same sort of prices as the new Mustangs and the Camaros. The Challenger really isn't any different. So then what do we have left? This crap slop? This doesn't even count as an enthusiast car. It just barely makes the mark. But this really is all we have left at this point, because there just isn't anyone else in the car industry that can make a quote-unquote fun car that cheap. All the other cars I mentioned are packed with features. They all have sound systems that are adjustable, electric adjustable seats that are heated and cooled, huge center console digital displays, digital or semi-digital gauges, dual zone climate control, lane assist, reverse cameras, proximity sensors in all the bumpers, and touch sensors instead of normal buttons. That's without mentioning that every car has some sort of gimmick nowadays. Like, in all seriousness, who in their right mind is actually going to try to use the drift brake in a $50-something thousand 2024 Mustang? The only people who can reasonably get away with excluding some of the aforementioned features from their cars are Mitsubishi, who have only survived as long as they have because they have cornered the market of cars that people who can't afford anything else can reasonably afford, all while killing all of the names that made them popular in the first place. So let me start off by saying that, of course, there's always going to be a place that has cheaper cars. That being said, although there are plenty of cool, affordable cars around all over the internet, this issue lies with people selling cars that are way overpriced. This is for a variety of reasons. The owners might be a little stupid, they might be desperate to get a return, or they might have heard somewhere that whatever car they're trying to sell is worth way more than it actually should be. All three options always have a little bit of greed sprinkled on top. So here's a bunch of Facebook Marketplace listings that I gathered to demonstrate the problem of over asking for cars that just aren't worth that much. Alright, so here's all the stuff that I saved. I'm going to go one by one. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think these are way overvalued, why it's a little bit ridiculous that they're marked for the prices that they're marked at, and that's going to be how that goes. Go! This thing's a piece of shit. Although a lot of older FRSs could go for in the tens. It's because a lot of older FRSs are kind of hard to find now. A lot of blown engines from these cars, a lot of head gasket issues, shit like that. There's a lot of people that complain about having a misfire after a while. This guy's got a misfire. It's got a check engine light, 4-cylinder misfire, slight knock, needs tires, interior is worn, the body has paint damage, the front bumper needs to be replaced. It's a little rough. It's a little rough, right? And this, what is this? You know what this is? This is a person who was told about the whole TikTok thing of taking a hammer and smashing the rear glass, like the plastic sort of bit here on the taillights, to make it look as if they're like European style, like clear ones. And it's gone horribly wrong because he does it on both and they look like shit. They look terrible. They're not sealed. This one, I don't know about this one. Maybe this one, you know, this is the stock clear, but oh man, does this not look good? I don't think you can ask $9,000 for this. I just don't think it's reasonable. Like, the steering wheel doesn't look so bad, but there's only one interior photo. He says it's worn. I'm not, and I don't think anyone else should pay $9,000 for this. This thing is a pile. This thing's a fucking pile that you have to put money into for it to at least be like stock quality. You know what I mean? Alright, next one. This is the next one. I'm gonna play the video really quick. I'm gonna put the audio on. There we go. This one? Oh, there we go. Alright. This one's gonna be hard to be picky about. Get the I'm going to assume it's a 6.8. It's got 160,000 miles. It's got a nice little, I don't think that's like completely stock, because I see a little bit of blue there, but I'm not sure. This one's in really good condition. But I don't think I would pay $33,000 for this. This is like the least proven example of like people wanting to be greedy, because honestly, if I was a millionaire, I would buy it for $30,000. My issue is just that, I don't know, older Power Strokes, like, there's a lot of maintenance stuff. I've heard a lot of, like, oh, like, old Power Strokes, and a lot of, like, older Ford motors, for that matter. When Ford was doing, like, the casting or whatever, or, like, the sandblasting, there's just, like, metal, like, shot beads just, like, floating around the inside of the, like, all the channels and stuff. And that stuff ain't good. That's not good. That's, you know, that's real bad on the part of Ford. That kind of sucks. But, like, look at this thing. This is a, I think this is like a 5 or a 6 speed. It's a manual, right? Oh, the interior looks beautiful. I bet you can smell the sweet felt chair smell, old truck smell that a lot of these, like, older pickup trucks have. But, like, oh man, I don't know. I'd probably pay like 25. I just don't. I can't see actually getting 33 for this. And it was listed a day ago. I hope this guy gets it sold. Like, I hope someone does buy it, but I feel like it's just a tad over. But like, if you see the frame, like, that's a little brown, that's the usual sort of corrosion / rust. This all looks super clean. Like, this frame looks great. It's painted. It's not like spray painted. It's like the factory paint. It's not like some dweeb just came by with a can of Krylon and sprayed this thing over to hide a rust patch or something. This thing looks like beautiful under. It's just like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know. You could probably find a Ford fucking F-750 for 33. That'll be like slightly older, but obviously more powerful and or useful. You know, and it's not a thing of like, oh, biggest truck equals best, but it's like, I don't know, like, if I'm gonna buy a giant pickup truck, like, this thing looks like it's ready to work. It's a 4x4, it's a dually, it's a stick shift, it's got a 6.8. It's like, this is the one. But, like, based on, like, if you're actually gonna use this to do work shit, someone is. I would just get something that's like either slightly cheaper so I don't feel bad smashing this thing to bits, or like maybe a little older but more powerful, for kind of the same reason, and also because it's like you might be able to squeeze more out of it. I don't necessarily have a problem with the truck itself. It's a very nice truck, but Jesus, man, I'm not gonna pay $33,000 for it. All right, so here's the little video that's attached. I'm gonna try and speed through this one just a little quicker. It's this guy doing pulls. It's don't mind this over here. This I don't know. Just do your pulls. I don't want to see your Cardinal 305s, dude. I don't want to see you get like, black lung. I just want to like sideways steering wheel. Yeah. So this is the description. I don't know what it is, but I swear this happens like relatively often where they write descriptions and it's like a period every 1 to 2 words. It makes no sense. All right. So regarding this car, like I'm gonna be real. 6500 ain't it. 6500 ain't it, and I know it's not it because another manual like 04 Civic EX Coupe was going for, and it was a 2-door, it was a red one, was going for like 2500, and it was like completely bone stock, like yellowed headlights, like perfect, like actually perfect stock to do whatever the hell you wanted to do with it. This is not worth 6500, dude. A cold air intake and these little silly rims, right? And then like coilovers and this like silly little cute weird looking steering wheel, which by the way was like, I'm glad he got that thing straightened out. I don't know if it was like the ultimate awesome Honda torque that was, making it so that this guy had to hold the steering wheel sideways while he was doing pulls, but I don't know, it looked sideways, so I thought he had like a crooked steering wheel or it was out of alignment or something, but I guess not. Like, and it's like, it looks like a really nice car. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, alright, I like how the car looks, but I don't know, it's got like a junkyard motor. It doesn't really matter. Like, they blew the fucking motor. By the way, it doesn't, obviously, another thing to take off the damn 6500 is the fact that this thing doesn't come with a radio, even though it has like the double DIN radio slot for like one of these like almost tablet things, like these infotainment systems that you buy secondhand, like a one of these Kenwood things that you buy, right? So he says these cars stock go for 45 to 5500, and that's an absolute load that this guy's dropping on your head. And yeah, nah, this ain't it, dude. This ain't it. Coilovers, a cold air intake, and a silly steering wheel aren't $4,000, and these silly wheels too, because I think I tried to Google these, and these things are cheap, dude. These things don't add up to $4,000, and the junkyard motor maybe is what makes the $4,000, bro. But you see, it's a logical fallacy that adding a new motor adds value to the car, because essentially what you did is take a car that was worth like $4,000 stock, and then blow the motor and make it worth like $2, and then bought a garbage engine from the garbage yard where you get garbage and put it into the car, so now it runs. So now it's worth actually a little less than it was before, because you blew the fucking motor and then you had to stick a new one in. So yeah, no, it's not worth $6,500. This is a little egregious. That's about it. That's all. All right, and there is going to be, there have been a few Florida picks. Fair warning, very ugly, extremely ugly, actually. Look at all this. Runs perfect, all bells and whistles, only problems, one headline's out, everything else works perfect, shouldn't offer, any reasonable offer will be entertained. This thing is not perfect. It's extremely ugly, and it's covered in lights that probably drain the battery really quick if you leave them on, and this thing isn't like cranked over. Yeah, cool, whatever. Like manual Jeeps, they're a little, I'll grant them this, that it's a little more difficult to find a manual Jeep these days, but like, I'll be real, this thing looks like a cheap pile of shit. Like the wrap was probably super cheap. Half of these Jeeps come with this little shit. This isn't like a big value getter. Neither of these like wheels, and neither is really anything. Like whatever, it's got a fucking lift. It's got a lift and it's got a winch, and it's got a silly big bumper and it's got silly lights. But it's not worth like basically $12,000. This thing is spent. It's got like 200,000 miles, dude. Like no, I'm sorry, it's not worth that. All right, so for the sake of like saving time, I'm gonna jump through the next 4 as a group. Or actually the next 5. Oh my god. So the next one, this thing. I'm gonna make this quick. I'm gonna make this really quick. Sounds good. Sounds great, dude. It doesn't sound great. $21,500 for an 06 WRX STI. This isn't even like that special, dude. The wheels look like they were plasti dipped, and that looks like shit. I like these little covers, these fog lamp covers. I like these. I think these are cool. I think these have something to them that I like. They change the body line in a way that I like, and I can appreciate them. What I can't appreciate is, for one, these giant fucking scoops that they put on aftermarket hoods, and these like really dingy, sort of awful looking headlights that are aftermarket. I can't appreciate that like at all. 06 STI motor has 8K, body 150 plus, runs strong, real carbon hood just faded, and blemish on the side of the car that you can see in the pictures. I have receipts from the Subi doctor. Text with any questions. I don't know anything about the Subi doctor. What I do know is that no amount of quality in his work is going to get me to pay $21,500 for this thing. I would pay not that. I'd pay somewhere in the tens. I'm sorry, like when you mod cars, there have been people to say this before, but when you mod cars, it doesn't add any value. It really doesn't. When you throw mods at a car, and especially if you actually hurt the car and then change shit because, you know, you have to make up for the fact that you like destroyed something, then it doesn't add value. It's the same thing as the Civic guy. It's like, yeah, you had to swap in an 06 STI motor, right? Because, you know, you probably blew the other one. As is the regular with Subaru guys. So it's like, you know, what added value is there? It's just like an STI that's been banged on a little bit. It's, you know, you swap some stuff. This should be like in the tens. This should not be 21,000, bro. This should be like at most like 12. Why is this like a thing? Why is it a thing that people think it's worth this much? It's not. All right, on to the next one. Let's go. I'm ready. I got my boxing gloves on. I'm ready to start throwing punches. This guy, you know what? I'd argue that this is cool in a way that not many other things could capture, and I would probably pay $11,500 for this. Oh my god. This fucking thing, bro. Now what I like about this car, not the price. I don't like the price, but what I do like is that, like, from the outside, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Half-Life Jalopy car model. That's what this reminds me of. It doesn't look a lot like it, but it's got that aesthetic, and you know what? For that, it's pretty cool. It's a 56 150 sedan. So it'd be considered a project. A tree fell on it in the backyard. It has a broken windshield, some roof damage, which can be repaired, and it has a new floor pan and a new carpet. Aside from that, the body's decent. Yeah, it's only ever decent, dude. It's an old car. The interior needs attention. No duh. I bet it's completely stripped and there's rust holes in the floor. It's got 350 aluminum heads, tunnel ram dual quad carbs. This is cool. I like this. And I like the scoop. I always think this looks cool. Even if it's like this, you know, because usually when you see this, it like means that they have a blower, like they have a supercharger here. But nah, man, just aluminum intake and then some carbs and then your scoop. That's all you need, baby. It's got a 4-speed trans. Definitely has potential. I know what I have and I'm not giving it away. Dude, not worth 11.5. Keep lowball offers to yourself. Is it still available? Is it still available? Will be ignored. Prices at $11,500 cash only. By the way, getting a lot of questions about the roof damage. Pick up front of car and driver's side of car. Blow those pics up. You will see the damage. Thanks. That's how you know. That's how you know you're talking to an old feller, a real old feller. Instead of saying like zoom in, they'll say blow this thing up. I would like to blow this thing up. Yeah, no, not 11.5. I wonder why it's taken, you know, 7 weeks as of now to sell this thing. I wonder why, dude. I wonder. I'd take the motor if I had something to put it in, but I wouldn't take the damn car. This thing's going nowhere. We're getting to the crazy ones. This thing, you know, it's beautiful. It is a right-hand drive car. It's got a nice, like, what brand? What is that? Nardi steering wheel. It's got Recaros. It's got all the nice, cute stuff you want in your Japanese car, and it's like, it's one of these like super special Japan cars. But you know, I'm not spending 66 bands on this thing. I'm not gonna do it. You know, just because it's a somewhat built out Japanese car, you know, it doesn't matter. I don't care. 66 grand is expensive. These people, like, they know that there's gonna be a fool to come along and try and buy this thing, bro. But Jesus, Like, it's got all this stuff. Yeah. And it's like not a ton of mileage. Yeah, no duh. It's got a 5-speed manual. That's like what all the GTRs came with, you know. Oh, it's got the brakes off of an R33. It's got R34 aluminum pedals, which that's like not even, dude, that's not even a flex. That's a little cheap thing that you like basically glue on or you screw on, bro. That's nothing. Nismo mudguards, Nismo floor mats, Nismo speed meter. The speed meter's cool. N1 headlights, whatever. Ready piping, that's cool. Trust stuff, that is really cool actually. I like that. I don't know much about Raymax, but you know, I bet it's good. Arc stuff, that's okay. BBSs, you know, the classic thing that everyone has ever put on an R32 GTR. The Nardi steering wheel, the Recaros. Honestly, I do like the Recaro bucket seats. I do like them. Aftermarket shift knob and boot and side brake boot. You know that it's not some awesome stuff if they don't even know what the brand is. A dead pedal cover, which it's like for what? Front bumper air ducts. That's pretty, you know, I mess with that. It has a functional purpose. It's got its owner's manual. It's got its warranty card, state of brand new vehicle purchased. Like, a lot of this stuff is cool. It's got a history, but I'm still like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care, dude. I'm not gonna pay like above 40 or like 45 for this. Like this $20,000 over thing is ridiculous, right? And you know, capping it off, I found a really sweet one. That's funny. Don't mind this stuff down here. This is the sweet one that's funny. This rocks. This rocks, and I thought it would be funny to throw into the video. All right, I don't know if this guy actually expects 70 grand for this, but Jesus Christ, like this is the work of a true genius, really. Go through the pictures really quick. Number one, I don't know what object this guy took the pictures on, but oh man, do they look mean. This is crazy. This looks like, how do I even describe this? And it's got a single exit exhaust. Wow. That's what that looks like anyway. That's crazy. But this looks like when people get a car and then put like red little stripes going down from the taillights to make it look like bloody eyes. Just kind of cringe a little bit, but in this case it works well because it kind of goes with the theme of this like destroyed crazy contraption, right? It's a twin engine Geo Metro V6 swapped. Mind you, I looked at the description before because I went through the cars because, you know, I saved them. This thing has two V6s from the last model of Mitsubishi Eclipse GT, so that rocks. V6 swap twin engine Geo Metro. I built this car to be solid in all areas, but if you're a perfectionist type owner, look elsewhere. I updated the video on here to include an acceleration. That was done over 2 years ago. Pull was on street tires, pump gas, and stock internals. Engines are code 6G72 single overhead cam V6s from the Mitsubishi Eclipse GT model of 2000 through 2005. Pro, the Geo's total weight with both engines is, oh, I guess that's not the last model of GT then, or the Eclipse then, frick. The Geo's total weight with both engines is less than the original weight of the vehicles each engine came from. So if you were to drive either the front or rear engine by itself, it would be at a 200-pound weight reduction advantage. Pro, unless it's a failure that affects the vehicle as a whole, like a flat tire or a failed ball joint, if one engine were to break down for any reason, you'd have the other to get home with. Pro, instead of relying on one engine to make decent power and worrying it may blow up or be less reliable due to wanting to make more power with forced induction or NOS, these engines are stock, so they aren't being stressed beyond stock with weight or heat, and the two combined is like driving a single engine car with half the weight. Pro, stock engines, transmissions, clutches, and axles. But I wonder how like he connected them. Like, do you have like some sort of jack shaft thing going on? Like, I don't, you know, it would be actually cool to explore this thing. He should donate this to a museum. Pro, it has all working lights, windshield wipers, and reverse camera. As if you were ever going to drive this on the street. Pro, it's fast and fun to drive with lots of torque. No duh.
runs on pump gas and rolling on street tires. No duh. That's the budget for this thing was real slim after he finished whatever modifications this thing has besides 2 engines, dude. So obviously it's running pump gas and street tires. Of course. He said, I've tested it for months and driven this vehicle from 0 to 150 miles an hour. Plus at least 6 times, so I trust it. Holy Christ. Pro, not so loud, straight through exhaust with removable decibel killers. Wow, okay. Pro, it has front wheel drive, front and rear disc brakes. Okay, so that's good. At least it stops. Each engine has their own fuel pump and it's wired to a fuel inertia cutoff switch. That's also good. It's got approximately 440 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque, and 12 cylinders. It weighs 3,000 pounds and it can be made to weigh much less. The history of the build is online, so you can get behind the scenes before buying a build. Oh, okay. You know, do something with this link, but I'm not going to leave it anywhere. It's an 11-second NA street car. Yeah, no, duh. It's basically, it's an all-wheel drive car with 2 V6s. It's the top 3 fastest Geo Metros on Earth that I know of. I'm going to stop reading all this garbage because past this, it's all of the stuff that's obvious the second you see this thing. Like, yes, no duh. It's made out of sheets of aluminum, alright? I don't know if this guy, like, I'm gonna scroll down to see if he actually wants a lot of money for this. So, dude, there's no way that this is actually 70 grand. But I would be delighted to find out that someone actually bought this thing. And I would, I'd ask them about it. But that's about it.
Okay, so by now I think I've more or less made my point. Cars cost money. A lot of money. But we're not done yet. On to part 3.
What's that?
We are now at part 3, and the thing I'd like to talk about is how corny and strange being a car person looks like, especially from the perspective of an outsider. This is due to a whole bunch of things, namely, stuff like cringy fake deep posts about self-harm idolization and depression. By the way, seek actual help if you feel this way and don't post about it on TikTok. People seeking attention or acceptance by acting irresponsibly or posting about it and trying to show off what they have, or the concept of rice and how someone becomes a ricer. To begin, I'd like to start by talking about the first of those 3 things. Fake deep cringe posting. Now, for one reason or another, it's become all too common to see clips on places like TikTok and Instagram of people's cars as backgrounds with text that usually relates to sadness or other negative emotions, such as blurbs about how no one understands the uploader and what they've been through, and how their car is the only thing that knows how they really feel. It's also common to see messages in these videos that fantasize death as the idea of losing one's own life in their car. Now, for what reason might a person upload such sad and depressing content? It's for attention. It's always for attention. Making self-pity mental health posts alongside videos of your car is a surefire way to get all sorts of attention on the internet, from both people who find it to be edgy and relatable, and people who are ready at a moment's notice to shit on you for posting something so incredibly cringeworthy. The thing is, most, if not all of the people who post this kind of stuff probably see all attention as good attention. I still think it's really weird though, that this sort of stuff is so common now. The only conclusion that I find rational is that modern car people are pretty young and angsty, and so they see it fit to gratify their need for pity and attention by throwing a clip of their car on there with a caption full of whatever they think sounds like some shit Juice WRLD would have said in a song before he passed away. On to the next thing though, people who seek attention by trying to flex their car or show off how they aren't a poser. Now, usually it's pretty easy to figure out who these attention seekers are, because whatever they do reeks of stupidity and a lack of thought. This is stuff like trying to do donuts with an open diff, or taking up space at a gas station and using the majority of the time that they're there to shoot 15 different camera angles of themselves and their car because they think gas stations are part of the aesthetic. Although, I think taking gas station pics or videos is mostly okay as long as the gas station is empty and you make it quick. No amount of photos, donuts, burnouts, or rolling shots is ever going to make something like a V6 Charger look cool. It is corny in general to try to show off really hard, but it's a whole nother thing when what you're trying to show off sucks. I also group takeover kids and highway cutters as attention-hungry posers because no one who actually cares about their car and the act of driving would willingly endanger themselves and others for any other reason than to get attention. But now on to the third thing, rice. Let me start off by telling you what RICE is and being a ricer means in the context of car stuff. RICE, R-I-C-E, stands for Race-Inspired Cosmetic Enhancement, and ricers are people who purposely add to or modify only the cosmetic aspects of their cars with race car stuff, because somehow they think it looks cool. The sort of stuff you typically see on a ricer car is fake vents, scoops or ducting, overly colorful paint jobs with all kinds of wacky patterns and stripes, and needless aero add-ons like big ugly wings and diffusers and splitters and skirts and canards, as well as a set of really ugly cheap wheels to top it all off. By the way, RICE and ricers as a concept have been around for decades. It's nothing new. It's just odd to see how much money people are willing to spend on cheap plastic shit that looks terrible, all for the sake of attention, even when the equivalent amount of money spent on like tasteful stuff that's practical would probably get more attention and most certainly get much better reception. But that's about it for part 3 though, and now we're on to the home stretch.
These fucking assholes, these fucking assholes!
You might be asking yourself, why choose to blame TikTok for the modern problems of a community that transcends just one social media platform? Well, I choose to because TikTok is the site where the biggest amount of car people currently congregate. TikTok's format allows for the shortest form, most brain-rotting content to be funneled into the eyes of hundreds of thousands of users per post. There are thousands of examples of substanceless, rage-bait posts that only exist to try and boost the amount of exposure that someone who really has nothing of interest to offer gets. TikTok has perfectly narrowed in what it takes to amass the least mentally capable user base ever. It also isn't just an issue of low effort, no substance content, it's also an issue of almost non-existent moderation that only steps in to remove content when a problematic trend becomes a site-wide nuisance. This is the exact issue I mentioned earlier in the section about takeovers. People who hold up traffic and close off intersections just to do donuts and end up smashing into groups of people are well rewarded with so many thousands of views. Also, like I've mentioned previously, for every creator that posts some trash, any attention is good attention, and TikTok reinforces this. This is so because all you can really do when spotting content that violates TikTok's guidelines is report the post, which requires a lot of people to do the same to get any traction, wait for TikTok to moderate it, which usually happens pretty late, or comment about how the content is bad, which does nothing but benefit the creator by giving them engagement. The only thing people can really do is to individually pick not interested on one of these posts to try and get reckless and brainless stuff out of their feed. But then you gotta do this on every post you encounter with the same subject matter, and most people don't got the patience to be doing all that. But no patience is exactly what TikTok wants, and it's why other platforms have created features that mimic how TikTok operates, namely YouTube with Shorts and Instagram with Reels. This low patience, low attention span model is also to blame for a good amount of increases on car prices. Besides the fact that children are always going to think that their favorite car comes with 1,000 horsepower as standard and can go 300 mile an hour in any weather on any road, car review creators have also artificially boosted demand for the cars they review by making it seem as if they weren't paid for some sort of brand partnership and just review new showroom spec cars because they feel like it. So, to adults, these cars seem way more valuable than they actually are because their favorite reviewer said so. The car dealers themselves have also gone on to launch dedicated ad campaigns on TikTok to great success, as overall, according to Leadsbridge, a marketing and analytics site, 74% of users have taken action after seeing automotive advertisements or content on TikTok. Such is the nature of advertisement though, and it's only going to get worse in the future. To be clear though, even if I have just spent half an hour or so talking about why everything sucks on TikTok and the world is ending, it doesn't mean that there aren't any good creators. Every now and then, I see a good one pop up, and it really does give me some hope that maybe it isn't going to be so bad in the future. I just hope that as a community, car people can learn to avoid and expel the kind of stuff that makes them all look bad, so that the hobby can have a few more golden decades. I am your host, Seabass, and this has been The Car Community is Dying, and it's TikTok's fault. Thank you.